All right, so we're live now. Let's see how many tries it takes for me to get the intro correct, and then we'll go from there. I can't even. I'm gonna die. I'm just gonna leave it all. I'm just gonna leave all of this in probably. How's it going? Yeah, how's it going, internet? Welcome to another episode of TikToks. I'm Ricardo. Today I'm joined by my friend and ex-boss, supervisor, person with power over me, Eric, who is now a person with power over other people. I've broken free from the shackles, and so as it is per the right of being once under someone's dominion, you must then bring them onto your podcast talk show so that you can ask questions that they're not prepared for. This is going to be the most probably philosophical episode that we've had ever so far. And we've talked about legitimate psychology and things. So, before we get into the nitty-gritty, is there anything you wish to share with the class? We're going to be talking about, I guess let me preface this so that you know what you should be sharing. We're going to talk about what the hell being an adult is. Why is growing up something that exists? Why is it a scam? And yeah, do you think you have any qualifications to talk about adult?
I think I have simultaneously too many and not enough.
Oh, lovely. But I guess share what you can, what you're allowed to, with your super top secret position. A bit about yourself.
Sure. So I now work at a college in Pennsylvania. I used to work at the University of Houston, Victoria in Texas as the manager of...
Yeehaw!
Yeah. Although that part of Texas is a little less yeehaw.
They don't know the difference.
Yeah. And I moved here in December. So that was definitely a journey. So speaking of adulting, trying to
I hate moving.
Navigate a move, right? And there's a reason I lived in Victoria for 7 years. I hate moving.
Are you sure it's not just because of the magical demon pact that was placed upon the city so that all who enter are trialed with not being able to leave?
That, or maybe just like the insane paycheck I got.
Oh, yeah. La feria, yeah. The big... I love donuts for breakfast. That's crazy. Okay, so... Let's get into this, right? We've already kind of talked about it, but honest to goodness, would you say you consider yourself an adult?
Yes.
Cool.
I feel like I'm 31. I finally feel like I'm at a point where I can describe myself as an adult. And I felt this way probably in my late 20s. I finally felt like I had like most of my act together.
Uh-huh.
Certainly looking at or working with so many younger people, right? So supervising, yeah.
Yeah, bro.
Peer tutors for as long as I did. When I first started, I was like 22 or 23 there. And, the tutors were pretty close to my age, especially the ones who were graduating. So, we had kind of a lot in common. But as I got older, you guys mostly stayed the same age, right? So yeah. Suddenly, I'm still, I'm 25 or 26 and 27, and everyone's still 19. And so kind of watching how they navigated their lives and how, I don't know, sometimes there's a lot of chaos with being a younger person.
A lot of decision making that is often faulty.
Right. Or yeah, based on reasoning that seems to make sense, right? At the time or in the moment, but is not really sensible maybe to someone with a kind of a broader perspective.
I thought you would say someone with a brain. Yep, that too. Those don't grow until at least 28, boys and girls. So
if you're lucky.
And it's crazy to think of right when I started college and we met for the first time in that program forever ago.
That's right. I actually completely forgot I met you there.
And then I ghosted it because I was a fickle teenager And now I'm a fickle young adult, so that much has improved. But and then who knows later on, right? And then I walk up and I'm like, hey, a job that you weren't looking for, that you had never thought of adding because no one had asked for it. Let's make it just for me.
I actually use you as an example in my current job.
Really?
Of like unexpected, of trying to like know your audience a little bit better, right? So I've been working with tutoring at UHB for a while, and there'd never been any kind of demand for philosophy tutoring, ever. We never got any requests, and so it wasn't even on my radar. And I was like, well, okay. And then
it was this cute face, chat.
Yeah, you walked into my office and I was like, hey, can I be a philosophy tutor? And I was like, why not? let's ask the professor. Like,
yeah, that was the my mountain to climb.
Yeah, that's definitely the challenge.
I'll never forget. I walked in and I said, hey, can I have a job? And he's like, did you take my class? I was like, yeah. What'd you get? I think I got an A. It was like 2 years ago. I'll look up your stuff. And then I asked him 2 weeks later, hey, so am I good? Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, well, and it's funny because around the same time, he and I had a conversation about how the tutors that I had doing philosophy shouldn't be tutoring philosophy. And I was like, who cares? Anyway.
Here I am. And yet,
yeah. And then you walked through my door.
Exactly. Wow, damn, I'm good. How'd I do it? How'd I set that up so well?
Although, speaking of like, so I think of myself as like an adult, but something I was talking to my grandmother yesterday, and she asked me, she was like, so do you still order food online? And I was
on
like,
the internet.
On the internet? And I was like, well, yeah, but usually only on the weekends. I cook during the week. And she was like, oh, I forgot that you knew how to cook. So even though I might think of myself as an adult, perhaps
it doesn't translate as well.
Adjusting, yeah. I'm still like 15, I guess, in her mind.
Always and forever, probably. So I want to backtrack just a little bit because I think we got off topic, but back to me, right, and me being an example for the work about unexpected audience and stuff like that. I feel like there was a point that we were going to make, but I forgot what I was even going to say next. So I'm going to just stop talking here, and I'm going to see if you can fill in the air.
Sure. So if we're thinking about audience, it's just that I didn't anticipate what would be kind of wanted in terms of like tutoring at that time. So we knew there were some subjects we always kind of knew what to offer. So like math, always. College algebra, always. And always several people, right? Yeah. Like 5 or 6 or 7 people who can do college algebra. Having backups for college algebra too, just in case. Very important. 6, writing tutors or English tutors, people like that. But there are sometimes subjects that kind of caught me off guard. So like every now and then we would get like accounting, and accounting was really hard to find a tutor for, because you need someone who's gotten through the class with an A. That was our requirement, and who's like willing to be a tutor, and then who is actually capable of being a tutor.
Steps. We got steps.
Right. But I've been surprised before as well. There was one tutor. I don't know if you remember her. Her name was Caitlin.
I believe
she's a teacher
so.
now.
Wow. Good for them.
Yeah, Caitlin Bartosh. But she proposed like a Friday morning SI session or something, and I was like, a Friday morning, Caitlin, that's never gonna, no one's ever gonna come to that. And you know what? She had at least like 5 to 10 people every single time,
which is honestly remarkable.
Right? Like, so, I'm just I should stop pretending that I understand college students, and I should just kind of roll with it.
okay, we started just kind of reminiscing and talking like we normally would, but the people are here and they need
yes.
answers, right? Sorry, internet. But let me get us back on track. What was the point that you realized you were an adult?
I think there were a couple of different moments. I think the first kind of moment was when I paid off one of my credit cards.
Wow.
I finally just, you're right. So I spent most of my college career with this one credit card as like an albatross around my neck, right? Because I didn't understand credit cards. I had no idea what I was doing. I was like, I need this thing. I'm just gonna buy it. So for most of my, especially in grad school, that particular credit card was really close to always being at its limit, which is super bad, right, for your credit. But who tells you that, right?
Nobody. I don't know much about credit, but all I know is that it's a huge scam. It's a huge crooked.
It's like a reputation, but with numbers.
That actually, people you've never met give you, and they don't know.
Right. These financial institutions. I actually have another story about credit that I'll go into a second. But so this was like an albatross around my neck. I didn't really know what to do about it. I finally got a real job. Thank you, UHV, and was able to begin making regular payments on this credit card without also needing it to survive.
Gotta live.
Because up until then I'd been, a poor college student and then a poor grad student, and then I could finally pay it off. And when I did, I actually ended up using my tax return for it to finally make just that one big final push. And I was like, you know what? I feel like that was like an adulty decision, right? I didn't like spend whatever the amount was on, I don't know, probably books, which is what I would normally buy, or a laptop that I don't need or whatever, right? So paying off that credit card was, I think, a really good first step. There were like a series of other things,
one day you woke up and your lower back was like, "Ay!" and you're like, "Oh no."
Actually, my lower back has always been fine. I have no real back problems. My knees are different.
Oh no! Oh no!
It was one that like popped for no reason.
Nice.
It just started doing that, and I'm like,
fantastic.
I don't know what to make of that.
Gotta get some WD-40 in there.
I'm like constantly worried about carpal tunnel. Like,
me too.
Yeah.
All I do is torture my hands. Wowie. I feel like a lot of moments are probably similar to that. I don't think I've had my shining moment just yet. I'm starting to see inklings of it whenever, like recently I was spending money, as I tend to do. Money I don't have. But I was like, I can get this, or I can get like this collector's edition. I can get this special edition. Will I ever use it? No. But I want it. I want to say that I have it. And I've like talked myself down from spending, or like talked myself from overspending and like doing different things, or not being as, I don't know, it's weird for me because I didn't have what you would call, I guess, a super active young adult life, in a sense. I didn't care about parties. I didn't care about it's not that I didn't care about going out and being with ladies and stuff, but it's just they didn't really care much about it for like with me, right? So I wasn't interested. I just wasn't interested. I stayed at home. I pretended I was doing work, and then I panicked at the last second and did actual work. So I never had a bunch of like these bad young adult habits and stuff to like wean off of, and I was just kind of like settling into what the hell I even want to be. But I feel like I'm still in the man-child territory, right? Like, I had nuggets and a Hot Pocket for dinner like a few nights in a row last week. So I feel like I'm still hitting my numbers, right? And I'm doing that right. I feel like, are you smiling because you ate nuggets and a Hot Pocket recently, Eric?
No, I ate Pop-Tarts for breakfast today. out of this. Yeah.
I keep
'Cause I didn't have time to make anything. I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna eat these Pop
I
Tarts.
call these my emergency rations. Every so often, if I feel like not moving or it's way too late that I want to make a fuss in the kitchen, just crack one of those bad boys open, and it'll stall me for a good 30 minutes. But maybe that's another thing too, realizing that you're hungry all the time. That's another thing that I've been kind of dealing with too, but not eating till I'm full, but eating till I'm just not hungry anymore, and like rationing food. And it sounds weird to say that, but it's just like I have to realize that I want to spend less money where I can, and food is a huge like wallet guzzler. And so nowadays, like I'll eat, like if I go to Subway, eat half a sandwich and I'll eat the other half later or something else. Because of that, I don't get my sandwiches toasted ever. Because toasting the sandwich is a lot worse. You have to reheat it. Who wants to? You got like lettuce and like stuff. Who wants to reheat that? Just if you get it cold the first time, you put it in the fridge, then it's cold the second time. It's stroke of genius.
You figured it out.
Also, I was told one time about how filthy the inside of the toasters at Subway are. Because apparently some people will, if you toast tuna in the toaster oven, like a tuna sandwich, it's just super gross, and those often don't get cleaned till the end of the day. So everyone else is whenever you toast your sandwich is being toasted with every other sandwich that's been toasted that day. And I was just like, thanks.
Well, now I'm also thinking now, who would toast tuna?
Someone diabolical. That's exactly. They show up first in the morning. They're the first person to get in line. They're there soon at crack of dawn, and they're just like, "Yes, I'd like one toasted tuna sandwich, please." And they just they just maniacally rub their hands together. That'll show you for having warm food. So, I don't know. So I had another question coming up here that it's actually one that I think we can actually talk about besides just being kind of spitbally, but especially since you've seen like the trend of people growing up and you've dealt with people your age, people a little younger than yourself. At work, you have also dealt with people a little older than yourself too. So what do you think causes someone to grow up?
I think it really entails a massive shift in responsibility.
That's what I was thinking too.
Because I think, I'm thinking of when, so I don't have kids, but I once took care of a pair of kids for, several months. So I'm thinking about, again, like when I felt like a grown up or like an adult.
I'm sure it felt like years too.
It did. It really felt like a long time. But I mean, I definitely know more than like 11-year-olds, right? Like I'm definitely in a better frame of mind than they are. So I think it's really things like that, where you have like kids or maybe I think sometimes different kinds of jobs will do it too. That different jobs really require a certain amount of professionalization and like etiquette, and you have to kind of like if you were partying like every weekend or whatever, sometimes you have
dial
to
it down every other.
Yeah, not taking so many snaps of
don't put it on the internet.
Stuff like that. You got to be a bit more conscientious. Whereas someone who doesn't feel that sense of responsibility will, I think, behave as they do, like
as they please too. Yeah.
Well, and I was thinking about it in the pause that didn't happen.
Exactly, there was no cuts.
I don't know. I really only feel like an adult in the presence of people who are not. If that makes any sense. And I think many people, maybe not many, but I'm thinking about my mom. I think my mom feels that way. She just feels like a person. And she only feels like a grown up when she's like with any of her children, really, or with people who are like significantly like younger, where you kind of have to take on maybe a role of responsibility that you wouldn't normally have to.
Yeah, because it's interesting to think about like how people mature and what causes them to mature and all this other stuff. And sometimes, like you said, like shift in responsibility. I think sometimes it's due to desperation of like. You're at a point where like all you can do, you have to grow up. In order to you can kids and young adults and etc. cannot handle some of the tasks before them in order to live their life. So you must in some way become an adult. I actually looked up the definition when I was writing up these questions of an adult. A better host / editor would have written them down so that we could talk about it. What I'm gonna do instead.
I thought you did. I thought you were referencing.
No. I'm going to, I wrote down the questions. I just didn't write the Webster's definition, so I'm going to slyly, without anybody noticing, go on my phone and type in definition of an adult. And then,
here's the definition of adult. A person who is fully grown or developed.
Whack. I don't like that one.
That's it.
The one that I like more is this one. It's the verb. The verb form adult, informal. Behave in a way characteristic of a responsible adult, especially by accomplishing mundane but necessary tasks. I've adulted with moderate success this week by compiling invoices and billing my client. Very good. That's what I like to hear. It's just interesting too. Like when did this start? I don't remember adulting being a thing until pretty recently, right? Like it's probably been a thing for forever, but in my frame of reference.
Well, I think the concepts of like childhood to adulthood is fairly recent. Like even the idea of like a childhood is relatively modern. Like children really didn't have like rights. Or,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like people didn't really respect children. They were just kind of like they were the tiny people that were kept out of public view mostly, right? Because they couldn't contribute, right? Really. And I don't know the exact like timeline of when that would have changed. I imagine when you begin when you're able to begin marketing toys and things like that. I think that's when there's a better concept of like a childhood, but perhaps also with like the development of like psychology.
Yeah.
Adolescent development, especially like adolescence, young adulthood, those things are very new and very recent. Because really it was very much like once you turned whatever the legal age of being an adult is in whatever country, usually 18, you were grown up and you were expected to do grown up things, and to give up the trappings of your childhood. But that doesn't really, there isn't like a clean break, where those things happen, right? I mean, certainly, like I'm thinking of when I was 15, like I never picked up a newspaper or read like the news, so I didn't care, right? But now I begin every single morning with NPR, so so there's this like transition, right, where it's like you feel like you should do these things or you associate them with adults, and so you kind of practice them out over time. And they just maybe become natural.
I mean, we're creatures of habit, right? So I think eventually just repeating this process of like adulting, or some of it sticks. And I also love that you kind of bring up the fact of like marketing to children and stuff like that, because good old capitalism and I guess American culture too, I think it just loves to shove things like adulthood and young adulthood and childhood down your throat with everything, right? Like it's one thing for there to be like children's cartoons or whatever, like knowing your audience is another thing too, but the amount of content and things that are produced around this idea of being a high schooler or, going through the phases and all this other stuff. And while I do enjoy some of it and I think it's cool, it's just really weird how like, maybe we're getting to like a completely different topic, but like how exploitative sometimes this culture and this concept of being an adult is, right? Like in the sense of, well, you're an adult now, you're 18, you gotta if you didn't sign up already by clicking yes, you can draft me, if you're eligible for that, then make sure you did that, because that's one of your responsibilities as an adult. Also, taxes, credit, these are things you need to know about. Well, what are they? All right, see you later.
Bye, yeah.
you do. Make sure you know. Make sure you know about applying for apartments, getting a car, knowing how insurance works. Also, your legal rights and everything. Now, make sure you have all those down pat. If you didn't balance a checkbook, I didn't either. So good. All right, thanks. Wow.
And that's it. That's all you get.
Right, and you figure it out as you go. The number of times where I've had to just kind of go up to someone that I know has lived a little more than me and been like, hey, what the hell's going on? And sometimes you just look and say, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I'm constantly asking my mom about stuff. Like, I'm thinking, like, when I had the boys, it's like, I needed her advice. I needed her advice way more, especially for cooking. I really needed her to give me like recipes because I didn't like I don't care what I eat really. Like I'm pretty like because I'll eat the same thing over and over and over again. I'm not terribly picky in that way. But you know, kids can't do that. They just can't. And so I needed her input a lot when it came to making different kinds of food that also tasted good, right? But yeah, I think the credit cards, getting a car, leasing an apartment, like all of those things, I'm looking back on when I first started, like kind of, I guess, entered like real adulthood maybe. That's what I'm going to call it. Like when I got my real job and began kind of.
That's the second album. The second album.
Yeah. And getting these accoutrements, you know, it's like something I needed. I had a really naive perspective of how these things work. And the linear way in which I thought they worked is just not true. There are a number of like things you have to kind of do in the moment. Like when you buy the car, you already have to have like insurance. How did I do that?
I didn't know until right now.
Yeah, now I'm trying to remember. Right, it's like you have to do it. You have to do it almost simultaneously because they won't let you leave the lot without the insurance.
And the thing is too that it's so crazy because you get like through TV or you know culture or seeing your parents stuff, you get all these ideas of how things should work and what to expect, and you actually get there. I know that I'll never forget when I actually got to college, right? And all these in high school they just barreled down on you. It's not going to be this easy in college. You're going to have to do all this stuff and dude, college life was wake up, go to a class, fall asleep, wake up, go home, sleep, wake up again, get food, come back, watch TV, go to another class, nap one more time for good measure, then cram, and then do it all again, right? Like,
you know, God bless high school teachers. They really
Amen.
They really think highly of whatever happens in college. You know, but and I think in a lot of ways being like a teenager is like harder than being like a grown-up because you're really at the whim of others, but you're still expected to like do 10,000 different things within like a 10-hour period or whatever.
And not only that, but one of my biggest things with it I think is that the journey of discovery, right, is eternal. It's right, you're always going to be trying to like redefining and kind of fixing and rearranging a little bit of who you are. But when you're a teenager, that shit's hard, right? You don't know what to like or anybody. You still have to deal with like peer pressure. You have to deal with like your culture. You have to deal with like, are you your parents? Is that what you want to be? Are you your friends? Who are your friends? What even is that? What are responsibilities? Who am I to the world? What is the world to me? All these questions, all these things, and alongside with that, you have to figure out how the hell am I gonna write a 10-page paper in a month? I have a month, only a month. Oh my god, how am I gonna do that? And the answer is you could have done it in a day. You just needed 29 days of stress accumulating up to that point. That's the secret, right? It's just, and so it's crazy. I feel like today now, every day, I had a revelation the other night, and by that I mean I couldn't sleep, and I decided to learn something from it. And I was just like, dang, I really should be sleeping, but instead, what about all those people that I knew in high school that I don't talk to anymore? I wonder how they are doing. What about that one, ex-girlfriend that I haven't thought of literally in years and probably won't again from this point on, but in this specific one moment, are they alive? And so, what I did? I made a list of people that I wanted to contact, and you were among that list. You were near the top, and I was like, yeah, let's reach out to some people, see how things are. Some of them replied, some of them are here now with us, and others didn't, and I was fine with that because I did the effort. But I think back to all I did in high school, the time where I asked a friend of mine that's near and dear now. I was, a high schooler. They were a pretty girl. You don't really got the pieces line up. So of course I asked them out. And when they said they weren't interested, that's all they said. It was just, I'm not interested. After I myself couldn't even ask, I was so scared of asking myself that I made a in-between friend ask for me.
Wow.
And after the in-between friend came back and said they're not interested, I did the reasonable thing and I avoided them for 2 years. Just didn't talk. Yeah, right. What else are my but to do but avoid them for 2 years? For 2 years later, once like senior year, when I had a little bit of semblance of self and kind of like I kind of lit a fire under my own ass at senior year, and I was like, what have I done in high school? I've done Jack. I'm gonna do all the things that I want to do now. I'm gonna just forget about being whatever. I'm just gonna do the stuff I want to do. And they reach out to me and they talk to me. I reach out to them actually. I see them again, like, wow, they're still cute, but let's just we can be friends. And I talk to them like, wow, you're talking to me. I tried to talk to you for like 2 years and you just avoided me. And I was like, yeah, sorry, whoops. And there was more mistakes that I made along the lines with that friend too, but we're fine now, I think. So it's just crazy to acknowledge that, like, I made some mistakes in high school and I've made some mistakes in college as well. God bless, I've made some mistakes in college, but I wouldn't change them because I am the result of these failings and these mistakes, right? And I wouldn't be here besides that. So also the idea of going back with the current knowledge that I have really scares me, because I feel like young Ricardo with current Ricardo's knowledge, it would be evil, diabolical. Like, I get away with so much. I could do so many things. Right now, I'm much more silver-tongued now than I was then. Like, my level of confidence for someone my stature and, like, presence, I could do a lot with that in high school. Heck. So, yeah, let's just keep that genie in the bottle.
I think you touched on a little bit about what did you say? Like in senior year, you felt like you hadn't like done anything, which is fine. Like 17, 18-year-olds haven't done anything really, in terms of like actual achievements or accomplishments. They're the ones in high school that maybe some people will do, they're the valedictorian or they're in the honor society.
Good for you. You can
hang
that plaque up for the next 2 years while you think it's.
But like when I graduated from high school, I was a student of the year. But like, yeah, thanks. But like it literally just doesn't matter. And it's hard to like kind of explain that. You don't want to like. And I never would do this. I would never like downplay someone's accomplishment.
You die, bitch.
A younger person, But like I've been sitting with younger students in college, and they're trying to make a resume, and they're kind of putting like, they're like a junior or whatever. They're still putting stuff from like high school, and I'm like, this doesn't really resonate anymore. Unfortunately, it just isn't really going to work. And trying to explain that you're in a different setting now,
where a whole different ball game.
Yeah. But like, I don't know. I think there's just this pressure around like milestones, right? There's this pressure, once you, so you're in high school, and then depending on kind of who you are or where you're coming from, the expectation is then like college, military, job, right? I guess if you're very well off, maybe you'll get like a year to travel in Europe or whatever, right? Some people do that.
You're young. Like, go explore the world. Live your life. Here's a small loan. Oh, mama, thank you, mama.
But then when you veer off at all from like a path that you made when you were like 18, talking to a guidance counselor, suddenly you're having like a panic attack. But it's like things change and shift, and none of them are emergencies, really. For most people, I just don't think when you make, you're calling them mistakes, but they're really just like learning opportunities. They're just like the choices you made that lead you to where you are now, and they're not good or bad. They're just, they were choices.
Yeah, and I feel like that's something you have to come with terms too. Like I say mistakes, right? It does sound very negative, and in some cases I do literally mean them as being negative. I don't think there's some things that'll ever like get over this was a good decision, but a lot of them you just have to take them at face value and be like, that's what I did then. And I believe that I'm a proponent of second chances, and with that but I'm an even stronger proponent of people are not static things. I don't like the idea of the Cartesian ego. I'm not a little egg. I'm a pie. Much more the mead side of things. But I think that every 10 years, right? They say that every 10 years you're completely different, or something about all the cells in your body that were once that have been replaced. I think that can happen with just who you are as a person, with things you take in, right? I'm sure that if, for example, let's say I was plucked and put in another country for a year, I most likely would not be the same person I am right now, like through all that experiences and all that culture. And this can happen starkly quickly, right? It's put yourself in a situation, right? Like whether it's life-threatening or not, something amazing. Let's say, right, if I get casted on some movie or something, and I go off and I meet a bunch of famous people, and things happen for me, I might change pretty quickly now that I have a different environment and different people and different responsibilities. But what I was trying to get at is the fact that last week's episode, if you guys watched along with us, I had my friend AJ, and there was a motto that AJ kept repeating about like their life and what they did in order to like come to the choices they were making, and it's turn over stones, right? Turn over a lot of stones. And I like that in the sense of just, in life we're turning over a lot of stones. Some of them have worms under it, some of them are just dirt, some of them maybe you find a nickel, and you got to appreciate those for what they are. And every stone turned is something you knew now that you didn't know then, and an experience, a choice, a decision. So I think stuff like that's really important. But as we grow, I think we don't always have to give everything up, right? What are some things that you think you've been able to keep with you throughout this journey of adulthood?
I think I've been able to keep a great deal without facing maybe the kind of shame or embarrassment that maybe previous generations had to face when they tried to keep some of their childhood things. I'm still very much into like Pokemon. Like that's one thing that's never really quite left me. I still watch like the show. I like the movies. I play the games. I'm not really any good. You know what I mean? I don't do anything competitive, but I just enjoy them. Like to me, they're just like fun. Like they're just a really fun thing to do.
How'd you feel about the remakes? Did you see the trailer for the remakes and everything?
Yeah, so I think the remakes are monstrosities. I'm just like, I don't understand. I guess I was expecting, and I don't know why I was
something
expecting.
Sword and Shield like.
Yes, that is what I was expecting. And then we got little chibi things.
The Bean People.
They make me uncomfortable.
I think they're hilarious, but I have a track record liking like abhorrent monstrosities. It's the only way that I can look at myself in the mirror. So, I'm hopefully optimistic, but that's pretty funny.
But some things you can take with you, so like when I was younger, I was very into like vampires and vampire literature and like movies, and I kept that with me for a really long time, and I guess I still am interested, but like in my master's program, I did my graduate thesis on vampires. So you can take kind of whatever you need to and apply it, I think, to whatever stage of your life. If you can make it kind of,
I think it's just
if
about
you
like
if you like it, make it fit.
I think it's like you said, you just have to refocus it into something that actually works with you and what you're doing nowadays. And like, some things never change. I fell asleep in high school during class, and I fell asleep at work during college. So, I'm gonna do it again. I think it's gonna be a long time. I actually there was a period of my life where I was genuinely concerned if I had like some weird like narcolepsy thing, because I'd be in meetings. I was in a meeting for Title IX for UHV, and it was me and 3 other people. 3 sweet old ladies sitting around me, and we're looking at some things, and I think Cammie was also there too, right? So my boss is directly there too, and we're just reading some pamphlets, and I'm sitting there, I'm reading, and I nod off. Literally, I'm sitting directly next to people, including my boss, half a foot away, and I am asleep. I'm dead. And I was like, wow, normal people don't do that. Normal people can't do that. How can I sleep better in a meeting than I can, like, at night in the comfort of my own home? So, but I don't know. I'm just going to chalk it up to being hungry all the time. But it's kind of crazy, and I know that I think too something that people can acknowledge is it's not just about your likes and dislikes, but you can also bring some of like who you are to like. It's not to say that as you grow up, sometimes people get a little less optimistic and whimsical and things like that, but I think in some cases it does happen, right? Like you know, there's like this trend or like this commonality of, especially portrayed in like media and things like that. But like older people are much more, this is real life and we're focused and we gotta. I don't believe in all your hippie gobbledygook and all this stuff. And look, I wake up and I eat a bowl of coffee grounds, and you know what? That's how I get my voice to be this gravelly. So like you can, you know, I think I don't think I'm ever going to stop making dumb jokes and funny voices as I grew up and old, and I'm sure the kiddos and grandkiddos will love me for it. But it's shoot stuff like this, right? Like this is here forever, right? I got this not too long ago, and a lot of things too is like, heck, you know the number of times where I have to like remember how old I am. Like I'm not even that old. Like I just don't give it power anymore, and so I just forget. I put my date in the calculator the other day just to know exactly how old I was because I wasn't sure.
No, that happened to me. I think somewhere between 28 and 29, I could not remember what exactly my age was. I was like, am I 29 or am I 30?
Do I want to do the math? Not particularly.
Right, yeah. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like at this point.
Yeah, and honestly, that's a lot of things. This is kind of not exactly about growing up, but I've been doing that with a lot of things nowadays too. Of just like things like exactly how old I am and exactly how I feel about some topics or exactly what I identify as or whatever. I just don't care. Like you realize that some of these things that a lot of people put importance onto don't mean jack diddly. So you gotta just push past them. So this one might be a fun question that we got lined up next. But what do you think what sucks the most about growing up? Not necessarily about getting older, but growing up.
This might sound maybe obvious, but not having someone take care of you.
I'm sure a lot of people take that for granted.
I distinctly remember, being like a kid, like a teenager, and like just, you have this sense of like safety. I did, maybe not all people do, but I did. I had a stable home environment, so I always had this like sense of safety and security, like that no matter what happened, like there was always a place to go back to, that there was like people I could rely on. And really, a lot of that doesn't quite exist as an adult. I mean, unless you can make it for yourself. If you have a partner, or if you have some kind of extended community, or if you live really close to family, maybe you still have that. But it's for me, when I finally went off to college, I went to UT, so it's this big school, and there's so many people there, and it's just like you're not really getting. I never really got quite that vibe, that I was like being taken care of, which is maybe fine, right? Because I was 18 and then 19 and then, an adult or whatever. But yeah, I think for me, the biggest thing is just like not having like a really strong sense of like someone handling things.
Or a safety net even.
Yeah. Now I'm doing all the things, right? I'm paying all the bills, and I'm making sure that my car is taken care of or whatever.
The first and last defense.
Yeah. So if something goes wrong with me, then everything just kind of crumbles kind of around.
I think that a lot of people often take that for granted initially, right? And like that's like something, right? Like especially because you get to high school and you get to college in particular, if you're doing college and things like that. Sometimes if you have the year off, then you can like get more used to drifting. And even then, when you're living at your parents' house, you're just like, let me out. But also, like, I didn't get to take a year off. My mom, I was like, hey, Mom, maybe I can just take a year to chillax, like, do my own thing, figure myself out. And she's like, okay, well, you can do that in Puerto Rico on your dad's farm, on your grandpa's farm. And I was like, I'll start applying tomorrow. And right, but having a warm meal whenever you get home that you don't have to make yourself, having someone else keep the lights on,
all this
other stuff
by someone who loves you.
Like these things, like it's often people just don't realize how nice they are, whether sometimes due to no fault of their own, right? And sometimes things happen, but it's crazy to think that. I think that what I've started to notice already, and maybe this is just part of being a young adult, maybe adulthood as well too, but it's just how hard it is to keep connected with everyone in the world of Facebook and everything, which is weird because the internet, and everyone says, your whole life's on the internet, Sonny. I can see your butt crack from a mile away.
Always in that place.
But it seems like although we're so connected, we're so detached and far apart. It's so bizarre to me. Like I was just talking about the people that I was trying to reconnect with in high school that I haven't talked to in forever. Like, you just drift. Like, right? Like, some people never left this town, and so they're still together. But those of us that did are just gone, like a fart in the wind. It's just
Victoria was like that. Like, going back, I was a kid there, like a kid. So I never went to middle school or high school there. But then I'm back there as like an adult, and I'm working with people who never left. And they know everyone. They know everyone because no one ever left.
That spell, dude.
Which is crazy. Yeah, I remember trying to introduce one of my work friends to one of my cousins, and he was like, "Yeah, we went to whatever Stroman or whatever, not Stroman. I guess West, whatever, one of those places." And I was like, "Oh, right. This place is like that." I forgot.
You guys already know each other. You should introduce me, actually, even though I brought you here together. So it's just crazy to think, right? And I thankfully have had the opportunity and the pleasure of reconnecting with some old faces and share some conversations, things like that. But it's just hard, and I mean, there's I think a dawning realization too, which really sucks. Of something you have to do is just start to let go. And just like a best friend that I had in high school that I remember we wrote in each other's yearbooks that if we weren't married by this date, we'd just marry each other, right? And I was cool with it, he was cool with it, and we're like, all right, we're in. The safety net's ready. But now, it just sucks because maybe it's me, maybe it's just me, and I don't want to toot my own horn, but I feel like I'm perceptive enough and I have a good enough intuition to where if I start talking to someone, I can tell you don't want to talk to me back. I'm not going to like there's just a feeling, right? You'll reach out and you'll be like, hey, how are you doing? It's like, oh, I'm good. How are you? And at that point, depending, I'll just read that, and maybe it's just me, but I'll just be like, oh, yes, I see. So we're going to stop after I reply, huh? And sometimes it's not the case, and sometimes people are busy, but I feel like there's just definitely a moment when you realize that these people that were once very close to you, aren't so much, and you don't have to care less for them, or you don't have to do anything, but you just have to say that was a period that we shared together, and that chapter closed, right? And now we open it up to new people. So
they're very I guess for most people they're just these very distinct moments, and maybe for me definitely, where like there is a sense of like something ending and then something else like beginning, but those moments happen less and less often as you get older. They happen kind of a lot, I think, like before you're 18, before you graduate from high school, because you have these really key milestones that you're just kind of shuffled through, but everything else after that becomes a bit more flexible.
And I think that might be too because we just get better at keeping things, right? And things we don't want to let go. I think there comes a point, especially in high school senior year, I wanted to reinvent myself, so I did. And then college freshman year, I wanted to reinvent myself yet again. I was in a new city, nobody knew me. I could be literally anyone. Why did I choose to be a socially anxious, girl crazy 17-year-old? The jury's still out on that one, but that's the role I chose to play. And then I did it again. I reinvented myself practically when I became an RA, and I was just like, it was just like a definite. I was just a college student before. Now I am more than a college student. And you have to do that every so often. It's interesting you bring like early on you just kind of shuffle through this thing. I think the beginning of life is so like breakneck speeds. Like you're just barreling through things like right after left.
It goes quite fast, yeah.
And even college was like, that was 5 years of my life, and I feel like I sneezed and it all disappeared. Right? It came out of nowhere and it was gone just as fast. But so many things happened. And now I feel like there's just this chapter, the awkward kind of half like the cocoon's not quite ready yet. I'm still making the cocoon, but I'm still like, so the worm's inside, and like I'm trying to figure out what the hell I'm gonna be. Am I a moth? Am I a butterfly? What's going on here? So once I figure this out, right, it's like another chapter, another page, another book sometimes. So it's wild. Fill the dead air. Filling dead air. No.
I feel like I'm having trouble holding on to like the threads.
Oftentimes you just ramble endlessly here. We shout into the void. This is an excuse for. Just the mad ravings of a bag of bones.
But I think it's nice that you even bothered to reach out to people. I don't. So like talking about like when chapters close and new ones begin. Like once that chapter ends, I just like those people are dead to me. They're gone. They've never existed. I'm never gonna see them again. It's over, right? And that's really how I used to approach things. Because that's how I would like. I would leave, like I left Austin and then I went to New Mexico. I didn't really have the desire to reinvent myself ever. What I had was really a desire to try and find the core of myself.
That's fair.
Like, really trying to like carve out like and get rid of the excess or whatever and figure out, what exactly am I doing?
Just who is this Eric?
Right. Which is an insane question for a grad student to ask, because I was in a program that really it was a good program, but I don't know why I was in it, which is not like a great place to be when you're like looking at grad programs. But yeah, so I would just do that. Like I would just like stop talking to people. But now it's like I'm 31. I've left my coworkers in Victoria, but we still text and talk because somewhere along the lines, 7 years working with people, it was the longest time I'd ever lived anywhere for a single time outside of my childhood, right? And so somewhere along the line, they became more than coworkers, I guess, like friends. But your definition of what friendship looks like as an adult is just so different.
Oh yeah.
As a kid, because as a kid, it's like you can form these really deep, intimate relationships with others. Like you can tell each other, I don't know, secrets. You have these like, yeah, right. You have these like shared experiences in school or in the classroom or whatever. As an adult, you don't really have. Well, I didn't. Maybe some people do, but I never quite had that. So my concept of friendship, it had to like morph as well in order for me to be like, to feel like I had friends. Otherwise, it was like I would get like really depressed. I was like, I don't have any friends.
I don't know why this made me think about that, but I'll get to that in a second. But I mean, I guess I get where you're coming from. I know what you mean. There's also the thing of like sometimes you just have to be more open to what is just friends. Like the stray meme here, the fact that you even bothered to reach out or talk or whatever, right? Like things unprompted and not unrequited, but like unprompted, just like, hey, how have you been? How's it going? Like that goes a long way, because I feel like, I don't know, I'm not there yet, but I've kind of seen in some things that it feels almost harder to make friends as you grow up, because you have so much. You are so much more like more of a person, essentially. There's so much going on. There's so many things you have to do. So I've recently like felt that I've always been really bad at calling people and keeping in touch. So I wanted to change that and like just every so often, at least every few months, just be like, hey, come on, just call your dad, will you? And and kind of just yeah, right, like I live with my mom. She still complains that I don't talk to her enough, but but it's like, you know, I'm just taking these steps in order to not feel like like I'm running out of people, that it's harder to make friends and stuff like that. There was another thing that I was going to talk about that I even said I would get back to it, and I'm trying. Oh yes, I don't know why I just remember this, but I'll never forget. We were in your office, and I told you about the human test. And I sent it to you, and like, you watched it, and I was like, "Oh yeah, what'd you think?" I thought it was hilarious. Like I was having, and you just looked at me like, I cried.
It made me so sad. I remember that video because, you know, work had gotten incredibly difficult, like emotionally in a way that it had never really been before. Not the work itself, but really just like the environment. You know, I wasn't chosen for the position that I wanted. I had to vacate my office, and I, you know, even now I know those are petty reasons. It's to kind of like start beginning looking for other jobs or whatever. And there were other ways that I justified it to myself. 7 years.
We always find a way.
You know, well, 7 years without any kind of real. Well, I guess maybe like 3 years without any kind of like real promotion or anything, right? And really just having things taken continuously away. Yeah, but somehow like that video really connected with me, especially towards the end, where it was like, you know, thinking about how much time you spend with the people in the office, how much time you spend talking with them just to have like a connection. And suddenly one day maybe that person is gone, and what do you do? And it's like, you know, we're more than just like the profit that we produce, you know, for the whatever companies we work for, even ones that are publicly funded. You know, it's okay to form connections with people, which I had always tried to like avoid in a workplace, right? I really tried to keep work in one place and then like my friends in another. But
I'm bad at that.
Well, because like my friends were suddenly the people that I worked with, like because that's who I spent the most time with. I didn't really have time to go. I don't know. I mean, I don't know who you explore things with in Victoria.
You want to go check out the Dairy Queen? I heard it got flooded. Yeah, let's do it.
Do you want to walk around the mall for the 12th time or whatever today?
Yeah, I guess I can window shop from that same place I was looking at 3 weeks ago, but I won't walk in because I know there's nothing for me there.
Yeah, but it's like, you know, you're spending most of your time in this place. It's okay to have friends and to miss people and to say that they're your friends and to spend time with them outside of work if you want to. Yeah.
I feel like I had to deal with that a lot too when I became an RA, right? And I now had a title, right? And I had so many people, especially people who didn't know me, who were like, I liked you better when you weren't an RA. I'm like, dude, who was I? Like, you liked me. You liked me from the 30-second preview that I did at the freshman orientation where I did some dumb dance or I sung a song and I made a total ass of myself. And you thought, that guy's pretty tight. But that's like, I'm multifaceted, baby. You think I can't put on a suit and know what needs to get done? So I think that too is that, like, I feel like it was crazy the number of times where I just could look at someone and just be like, wow, you really got here on your own, didn't you? Like, how did you do that? How did you figure that out? How did you make it this far? Because clearly there's a few things that you've got to work out still. And I hope, right, whenever I see those people, like, and whenever I see any scumbag or like these trolls on the internet, I just think to myself, I'm like, please, cosmic entity universe thing, whatever's out there, let this person one day wake up and stub their toe so hard they realize they were being garbage and they fix their life. Let that be the point in which they solve the eternal riddle. Because that's all I can do. I can just hope that people will figure stuff out. And the other day I got a message on LinkedIn. It's like, do you know so-and-so? And I was like, and I just swiped away. I was like, never talking to that person. Never. I do know, and that is specifically why I will not accept their invitation or do their talk or whatever. So
it's funny how like people that I like in one environment, and then like when I leave that environment, I don't talk to you anymore. But then there are people who I didn't like in that environment, and somehow they keep popping up into my life somehow. Either on LinkedIn recommendations or like Facebook stuff, because we had like maybe a lot of common friends in college, but I really hated their guts, or we had like some kind of really weird disagreement, and I just am not ready to move past that.
I'm taking that one to the grave, baby.
Yeah, I hold grudges. I don't apologize for that.
But I think it's funny you mentioned that too. Like I recently saw someone on Facebook, some old friend of mine who I parted ways with because they had their heads so far up their bungus that it was hard to talk to them without catching a whiff. So and like they're talking about they're finally getting their career started, or they're like, I'm so happy to have started this position. I'm just like, good for you. I hope you're better now than you were then, for the sake of everyone involved in that project. And I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Well, and I've been speaking of like mistakes, I've been the asshole, like in not like relationships, but like in like friendships. I definitely have ruined some of those, and I think about those moments, and I think about like the person who did those things, and I'm like, well, I feel like I feel like I learned a lot from it. I feel like I know I learned enough to not repeat that, and to be very careful about how like I spend time with people, and about how what we kind of do together. Learning that about myself is really important. But I've hurt people before, and so like I try and be conscientious as I move forward, like because you have to move forward. Like you can't just like be stuck and mired in these past mistakes, and things like that. Yeah. So hopefully, that person does improve. I did.
Yeah. So like that's the thing, and I feel like thinking about like mistakes stuff too. There's like I think there's one thing. It's not really that I regret, but one thing that I think if I could go back and change, I would, because it's something so minuscule and inconsequential that it wouldn't affect or change who I am, but it would make someone else's life a little easier in the sense. Back when I first met Nikki, right, and I'm like, we're going on 4 years now. It's been a long time. Right before we got together, we'd both gone out of relationships, and we both joked with the idea of Tinder. And I met this person on there, and I'd seen, like, it's in Victoria, so I'd already seen them before. They'd seen me around. We hung out, and like we matched up or whatever, and I thought they were cute. They looked fun. They came to my room. We played Mario Kart. And after I, absolutely destroyed them in Mario Kart, from what I remember, we were just talking, and there was just like this, like, so what are we gonna do now? And there was just like this point in my head where I'm just like, what am I gonna do now, right? And it's just like I acknowledged there. I was like, wow, like I think this was a point where I could choose to pursue some of this person, however long it may last or whatever that may be. But I couldn't stop thinking about Nikki, and instead of telling that person that, I told them nothing, and I just ghosted them. And I just like every time they asked, they were just like, "Oh, sorry, I can't hang out. Oh, I'm busy. Oh no, can't do this, can't do that." And they would see me, and they toss like a painful look my way every so often, and I'd just be like, not gonna worry about anything. And
there's like a cloud over them as they're
right, and it just sucks. It just sucked, and like maybe I'm giving myself too much credit, but right, going back and just being upfront, just be like, hey, I actually like something cheesy, like, I would totally like kiss you right now, but I'm in love with somebody else, and right, there's something stupid, there's anything besides saying absolutely nothing, is something that I wish I would have done then.
It's funny how like inaction is inaction. Like it's a decision, and it has its own consequences. And even if you choose to do nothing, like something still happens as like a result. That's definitely I've faced that before. Normally, I'm the only one suffering those consequences when I don't do a thing that I probably should have done. Um, but yeah, it's funny how hard it is too to like be just like direct and open. It's like we're so afraid of like hurting people, of being like a direct cause of hurt, or like, but we're happy to be like an indirect cause.
I'll take it.
Like, yeah. Like if it involves me doing nothing, then I'm here for it, right? Because somehow that seems easier than doing the thing that would be more effective.
And something too that I just came to realize as we were talking, I feel like a lot of things, and correct me if if you don't share this a similar opinion, but I feel like a lot of things when it comes to growing up is to acknowledge that a lot of things that we didn't believe are come down to just choices, end up actually just being choices. And I'm a proponent and a believer of true love being more of a choice than being a fleeting feeling. Like I get being enamored, I get having a crushes. I've had plenty of those, let me tell you. And with those, a lot of times there came a point where the feeling was gone, and I think, oh well, do I just not care anymore? Like what's going on? There's just like this panic of just, well, I don't feel as good as I used to feel, so clearly something must be wrong. But nowadays I realize that just every morning that I wake up and I make a happy, willing, complete decision to be like, do I want to wake up next to this person yet again? Do I want to wake up doing what I'm doing today yet again? Then in a way, I it's a form, like that's what I acknowledge love closer to than just this passing feeling, because I've had passing feelings all the time, and sometimes it's just gas. And you have to acknowledge that we can be more than just whatever you think this feeling means at a time, right?
I think I'm inclined to agree with that. When I had the boys, that's what it really felt like. It felt like I was deciding every day to do this thing, right? I had to recommit to it in order to do it. I'm gonna say effectively. I don't know if I was always effective.
Kids, if you're watching right now, years in the future, let us know in the comments how Eric did.
Like, don't tell anyone about how I used to let you like just run across 4 lanes of traffic to get to your friend's house. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, it was, and that's what I would tell them, because I think sometimes they would get insecure about their position with me and being there, and I'm like, look, you're secure here. I made a choice to do this, and I choose to do it every single day. And I'm going to keep choosing to do it until, you can go back to where you need to.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it's, it starts as a feeling, and then you have to choose.
It's the acknowledgement of, even without this feeling, I would do it anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you feel the opposite, right? Sometimes you wake up and you're like, please, let me just turn around, please. No, just like 5 more minutes, Mom.
Yeah, it's like I wake up and I'm like, I know the boys are out there, and I'm like, I have to wake them up. And then I'm just laying in my bed, and I'm like,
can I put a happy face on this waffle yet again? Can I will myself? And
sitting out in my car or something, like not wanting to go back into my apartment. Maybe if I just stay here, I can have like 5 minutes of peace before I go.
Sitting there watching your phone and it dies, and you're like, must be nice. But
you're finally free.
Yeah, but all right, to like wrap this, I feel like we could go on even further, and I may have to bring you on again to just ramble some more. But I like to end every episode with a section full of advice to be like hopeful and aiming towards the future. And if anybody has any questions or any problems right now, I would seek to address them here. So, to anyone that's worried about having to grow up, do you have any advice?
I mean, there are practical things, but it really depends on the person's specific maybe circumstances. But I would say it's really not that bad. It's really not that scary. It seems scary at first in the way maybe, any precipice seems scary, But really, I've enjoyed being an adult for the most part, right? I get to make my own choices. I get to choose what I want to do when I want to do it. I earn my own money, so people don't control me in that particular way, and I can spend it any way that I like, or any way that is like maybe. I was gonna say responsible, but sometimes you don't spend things responsibly, right? Yeah. But besides that, I would say, pay attention to your credit. Explore how apartment leases work, especially in your state, wherever you are, because that's changes.
I love it. We
And then if you're on the job market, make sure you do your homework before you kind of begin applying to things. But there isn't there is no roadmap, there isn't a secret formula, there's no right answer to being an adult or being a grown up. Like, we all get to it in our own ways, and I think we all succeed in our own ways too.
I was gonna say that you lightly touched on it too, but my main thing is enjoy the ride. So far, right? Find the things that make you happy and continue to do those, and do more of them if you can, right? And sometimes there's gonna be a lot of BS that you're gonna have to deal with. There's gonna be a lot of things you don't want to do. There's gonna be a lot of mistakes you're gonna make, but there's something liberating out of making a mistake because that's what you chose to do, right? Like there's tons of times where we make mistakes for other people, and there's sometimes we make mistakes because of other people. But just like having a decision, even if it falls flat in your face, and just knowing, wow, I did that. The city lies in rubble around you. The flames of hell reach up. I did this. So buckle up. It's gonna be rough and tumble, but keep getting up, keep flipping stones, and it'll all work up. Thanks so much for being here, Eric. I really enjoyed it. We'll see if we can get you again for something else. I'll see what I can come up with. Some more kooky questions.
Yeah, for sure. This was a pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you guys for watching, for hanging out. I appreciate your continued support. This is the point where I'd say that if you wanted to reach Eric, you could find them in the description below, but I will not dox my friends, so that's okay. If there's anything in post-product that we feel like sharing, maybe I'll share that video by Zifrank about the human test. I'll put that in the description. You guys can watch along with us, and metaphorically speaking, because I'm not going to be there. But, in spirit, in thought, we can watch that together, and you can let us know what you thought and what you think. Well, what else do you want us to hear us talk about? Much love. Take care of yourself. Have some fun. Buckle up. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.